So here's how this episode started. I've been on a full-blown cleanup mode lately. And I don't mean the kind that where you just organize your closet and feel good about it and you just do it for 20 minutes and you get rid of a few things. I'm talking major shifts going on, energetic shifts, and your entire being starts saying this is no longer important to you here. It's not a bad thing, but it's because really you've just outgrown it, right? And in the middle of all that, I have about 50 boxes of Oracle cards that I throw up on the shelf and I organize. And I'm telling you, one of those boxes literally came flying off the shelf and into my hand. Like it was waiting for me to come closer to it. The deck is called The Wisdom Keeper's Oracle by Rosie Aronson. And if you've never seen it, go look it up, wisdomkeepers.net. Beautiful artwork, will stop you in your tracks. It really speaks to you. It speaks to me anyway. So I set the deck on my desk and it sat there for a few hours because I kept getting pulled into 17,000 other directions, because the universe obviously has a sense of humor and also a very full to-do list for me. And it kept saying to me, pull a card, psst, psst, pull a card. So I did. And this is what cracked this whole episode open. But before I tell you which card I pull, I need to come to you straight. Because I have a question I want to ask you right out of the gate. Are you a good person? Now think about it. Are you a good person? Most of you just said yes. Some of you say, I try to be. And others just might be feeling uncomfortable. And I want the uncomfortable ones to stay right there because that's where the good stuff lives. And now let me ask you something else. Has being a good person ever cost you something? Your time, your money, your energy, your sanity, your peace, self-respect? People always say it's like a compliment. Oh, she's such a good person, isn't she? You're just such a good person. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I would think to myself, being a good person is gonna land me in the grave, like dead. My dad used to say, he's such a funny little generous man. He's just amazing. My dad used to say, don't take my kindness for weakness. And I watched that man get taken advantage of most of his life. And he kept giving anyway. So here's where I'm going with this. Has someone ever taken your generosity and mistaken it for weakness? Have you ever given everything you had to a person, to a family, to a role, and gotten back something that felt a lot more like being taken for granted than appreciated? And here's the real question, the one that nobody really wants to hear. Were you giving from your heart or were you giving away your power? Yeah, I know. That one lands differently, doesn't it? Because there is a difference. And most of us, myself very much included, spent years not even knowing what that difference felt like. And I really want to help you to not have to go through with it and to figure it out. So today we are talking about altruism. I want to be honest with you. I have never really even used that word. I don't even heard that word before I pulled this card out of the deck. Altruism, the unselfish concern for others, being the person who gives, the helper, the fixer, the strong one, the one who always shows up. Oh dear God, this is me. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is me to the absolute T. Now, baby, it's you too. So today we're going to talk about why that quality is beautiful. And we're going to talk about why, if you're not careful, it will hollow you out. And I am not speaking from theory here. I am talking about almost my entire life. So by the end of this episode, I want you to walk away knowing the difference between being genuinely generous and being a good girl. Because I spent a long time that very, very good girl. And honey, it cost me. So let me take you back to where this all started for me. A few weeks ago, I was in the middle of what I can only describe as an energetic reckoning. Not a breakdown, or it was a clean out. And if you've ever felt that kind of shift coming, you know it doesn't ask your permission. It just arrives. And suddenly everything in your space, your schedule, your relationships, you're looking at all of it differently. Like you finally turned the lights on in a room you've been navigating in the dark. So my husband Tony was away for the weekend and I thought, this is it. This is my weekend to get stuff done. So I'm in my office going through boxes and bins, hours of this. The classic 3 piles, keep, toss, give away. And at some point, I stood up and found myself in the hallway looking at 6 framed certificates hanging on the wall. Diplomas I earned, credentials and programs and certifications I had worked incredibly hard for over several years. And for me, that represented to me all the time. It really, really mattered to me. All the late nights and the studying and the self-doubt that came my way. When I finally looked at the wall, there was this wave of, yeah, I knew it. I have a gift. I have what it takes. I don't need proof of this anymore, because that's what it was really just about, wasn't it? The proof, not the knowledge, because I already had that. It was the proof and the acknowledgement that I had the knowledge. It was the thing I could hold up and say, see, I'm the real thing. And standing there in the middle of my clean out, I looked at these same certificates and diplomas, and I felt nothing, and not sadness, not pride, just nothing, because somewhere between then and now, I had stopped needing the proof. I became the proof. And that is a very different thing. I put them aside and I kept moving along. Now, here's where it gets interesting. And stay with me, because this is not just a story about letting go of old stuff. That moment made me ask myself something I had never really asked before. If I no longer need the certificate to know I have what it takes, what else have I been doing all along for proof? What else have I been giving and sacrificing and showing up for? Not because it was truly from my heart, but because I needed someone to see me, to acknowledge me, to say, yes, you matter. Yes, we see you. And yes, thank you. And the answer hit me like a ton of bricks. Almost everything. Now, I want to be very clear here, because this is not just a woman's story, not even close. I think about the men in my life, my husband, my father, my brother, men I have known, my clients who gave, and never once ever wanted something back, because that's not what we do, right? You're the provider, the protector, the one who handles it. You don't ask, you don't complain, you just keep going. And the world calls that strength. But sometimes it's not strength. Sometimes it's a very old wound just sitting there wearing a Halloween costume. Whether you're a woman who was raised to be a good girl, sweet, accommodating, always thinking about others first, or a man who was raised to be the rock, solid, selfless, never needing a thing, the result can be exactly the same. You give until you're empty, and then you give some more, and at that point, you look around and you think, holy nobody even noticed what it cost me. I served my family for a really long time. My dad, my mom, my brother. Willingly and lovingly, I was the one who showed up, made the calls, sorted out all the problems, stood in the gap when things fell apart. I used to joke that I felt like I was the parent watching over the 3 children who happened to be geriatric. And for years, I was the sergeant in arms for the entire Ricci family. And I wanted to be clear here. I don't regret a single minute of it. That is the honest truth, because I know that everything I did was guided to do and followed my gut and my intuition. And the universe moved exactly the way it was supposed to. But underneath all of it, what I really wanted was simple. It was respect and admiration, love and gratitude. And here is what I know now. Those are not wrong things to want. They are human things to want. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. Here's the part that changed everything for me, though. When I'm really honest, some of that giving wasn't entirely for free. Some of it had a quiet, invisible string attached. One that said, if I give enough, it will show up enough. If I hold these people the way they need, they will finally see me and finally love me the way I need to be loved. And that's not giving, that's negotiating. And you cannot negotiate your way into being truly seen. Now, if you know me, you know I love a good Dorothy Wizard of Oz moment. Clicked my heels 3 times. There's no place like home. I spent so many years looking for home out there in the acknowledgement of others, in the certificates that were on the wall, in the role of the one who held it all together. But what the clean out taught me, well, standing in that quiet, lightened space taught me, is that I knew who I was all along. I always had this gift or this sense inside me of what I can do. I always had a knowing. No piece of paper on a wall, no person in my life could ever give me that or take it away. I just had to stop giving myself away long enough to come back home to me. And that is where your heart opens. This is really the beginning. So altruism, what actually is it? Because most of us have been living it our entire lives without ever having a word for it. It's the unselfish concern for the well-being of others, giving your time, your resources, your energy, without expecting anything in return. It's the person who stops to help a stranger, the one who quietly pays for the person who came up short at the grocery store. It's the one who shows up at 2 a.m. when the call comes in. No agenda, no invoice, just I'm here. And that is genuinely beautiful. It's the capacity. It is the capacity to give, to truly, freely give. It's one of the most powerful expressions of the human spirit. But there's a shadow side to this that nobody puts on that thoughtfully designed, attractively framed poster hanging on our therapist's wall. And today, we're going to look directly at it because what lives in the shadow is where the real work is. Now, I could say, speaking of 2 a.m., I just got to say something. I don't have anyone to call at 2 a.m. or 4 a.m. or honestly, most of the hours of the day. They call me. Raise of hands. Anybody out there? I see you. I know. The one everybody calls. The one everybody leans on. Raise your hands. The one who holds it together for everyone else. And as I'm sitting here and speaking to you, I don't think there's anyone that I could call at 2 a.m. I could say my husband, but it would probably go to voicemail. But he would have my back. I know he would. Because this is what we do. This is who we are. Sound familiar? Here's what I want to do right now. I want you to get honest with yourself. Not performatively honest. We're not in a group session here. Just you and this moment. And I'm going to put a question up on the screen. Think of someone in your life you give to consistently, a person, a relationship, a role, and ask yourself, when you give to them, what does it feel like in your body? Does it feel like relief, like love, like, of course, I want to do this? Or does it feel like obligation, like a dread? Like, if you don't, something bad will happen if you don't help, or someone will be disappointed, or you will somehow be less. Maybe it'll start an argument. Maybe that damn scoreboard starts coming out because your body knows the answer before your brain does every single time. There are really 2 ways that people give, and most of us do both. Sometimes in the same way. The first is giving from fullness. This is heart-led giving. You have something, love, time, resources, presence, and you offer it freely because it genuinely feels good to give it. No hidden agendas, no quiet expectation, waiting in the wings. You give it and you let it go. It doesn't matter to you. It doesn't matter even if they don't notice. You give it because you wanted to, and that's enough. The second is giving from depletion. This one is sneakier. It looks exactly the same from the outside. You still show up, you still give the time, the money, the energy, but underneath it, there's a string, a quiet, invisible string that holds, that says, I'm doing this because I need something back. Maybe it's acknowledgement. Maybe it's love. Maybe it's just feeling that you are needed, that you matter, that without you, things would fall apart. And if they don't say thank you, if they don't notice, if they take it for granted, that string breaks And that's where the feelings nobody admits starts to surface. Let's name them because they deserve to be named out loud. Resentment, that slow burn that builds when you keep giving and nobody fills you back up. When you've been the strong one for so long that people forgot you're also a person. Exhaustion, not just the physical kind, the deep kind. The kind that comes from carrying more than your share for longer than was ever fair. Invisible suffering, the feeling that your sacrifice is so assumed, so expected. It has become a wallpaper. Nobody sees it anymore. They just live in the room. And the quiet scorekeeping, even when you don't mean to, even when you'd never admit it, the part of you that knows exactly how much you've given and how little has come back. And underneath all of it, the feeling that is hardest to say out loud. I just want to be seen. I want to share something with you personal here because I can't stand up and offer you healing without being willing to stand in my own truth. I lived in resentment toward so many things in my life for many years. It was ugly. It went unresolved far too long. And it got to the point where there was no turning back. And it took so much energy, so many arguments, so much of me poured into something that could have never been fixed. Now, my dad used to say, God love him, you can't push a rope. God, he was so funny. You can't push a rope. But he was right. You cannot push a rope. You cannot force a person to become who you need them to be. You cannot negotiate your way into resolution that other person has no interest in reaching. And the moment I accepted that I truly accepted it, I stopped fighting for a seat at the table. Instead, I just became a passenger seated in a car forever. And that was not defeat. That was freedom. Now, I want to offer you something because my relationship with giving has evolved into something that looks a little different than what most people expect. I don't keep score. I genuinely don't. I really don't. When I give, it's gone. It's released. No ledger, no running tally, none of it. No quiet expectation. And the resentment, that does not live with me anymore. Life is too short. My energy is too valuable. I will not let resentment set up furniture in my soul. But I have a very clear line. The moment a situation starts feeling like someone is trying to control the outcome or control me, if they bring in their agenda into me or expect me to operate within it, I don't fight for the table. I leave the table. Not in anger, not with drama. I just step back because I've learned that there are battles worth everything you have, and then there are battles that were never yours to fight in the first place. The only exhaustion I am willing to carry is the exhaustion of something well fought, on my terms, with my whole self in it. Not the slow drain of a dynamic I didn't choose and cannot win. That is a different kind of strong, and I want you to find yours. What is your version of leaving that table? Do you even know you're allowed to? So here's another question we're putting up on the screen. Where in your life are you giving from fullness? And where are you giving from depletion? Don't answer it so fast. Sit with it for a sec. Take a few breaths, because the honest answer might surprise you, and it might also feel like relief, like you've finally been given permission to name it out loud, what you've known for a very long time. All right, so here's another question. Are you giving or are you performing generosity? That one is uncomfortable, I know, but here's the difference. Giving is free. Performing generosity has an audience. Even if the audience is only yourself, it's the part of you that gives you so much that you can feel like a good person. So you can say you showed up. So the story you tell about yourself stays intact. And the story you tell everyone else sounds like you put on your cape and saved the day. Neither one makes you a bad person, but only one of them fills you up. And only one of them is sustainable. Let that settle. The goal of this episode, and really the work that I do, is not to make you stop giving. Giving is a gift. The world genuinely needs it, right? The goal is to help you give consciously, intentionally, from a place where you are whole, not from a place where you are hoping the giving will make you whole. There is a version of you that is deeply generous and completely intact. Those two things are not opposites. And that is exactly where we are headed right now. I want to go somewhere personal with you now, and I want to say this up front. I am not going to give you every detail. Some things are still mine. Some things aren't ready to be spoken yet, and some things honestly don't even need to be unpacked in public to carry their truth. But I will tell you this. The person I gave the most to in my life, the person I showed up for, cared for, protected, and ultimately forgave, was also the person who hurt me the most profoundly. My mother. My mother was a very hard person to love, and I say that with no dishonor to her. I say it because it is simply true. And I've done enough work on myself to be able to say it without flinching. She struggled with mental illness. She carried wounds of her own that she never healed. And somewhere in all of that, she could not find it in herself to love me the way a child deserves to be loved. What I needed, what every child needs, it's not complicated. I didn't need her to be my best friend. I needed her to be my mother, someone I could trust, someone who offered honesty and guidance, someone in whose presence I felt safe. She was not that. I spent years, more years than I care to count, trying to understand her, trying to find the explanation that would make it all make sense to me, trying to be good enough and quiet enough and helpful enough to find something that she could simply be giving to me. I was a good girl, a good daughter, through and through, even when she made it nearly impossible to be. And I want to tell you, there came a moment when I was a teenager where I finally stood up for myself, and her response was to fall to the floor and fake a heart attack. Yep, you heard that right. And I want you to sit with that, what that does to a young person, the confusion of it, the guilt of it, the way it teaches you at a cellular level that your needs are dangerous, that your standing up for yourself causes harm, that being small and compliant is the safest way to exist. Because that is what being a good girl, a good daughter taught me. Stay small, don't cause waves. Your feelings are the problem, not the behavior that provoked them. That lesson, that lie, took me a very long time to unlearn. But here's what I also want to tell you. I forgave her. Completely. Not for her, for me. Because I understood eventually that she was a wounded person doing the best she could with what she had. And that her inability to love me properly was never, not for one single moment, a reflection of my worth. And I made sure she was treated like a queen until the day she died at 92 years old. Because that's who I am. Not the good daughter performing for her mother's approval. Not the good girl trying to earn what should have simply been given. It's just me choosing it from my own wholeness. That is giving from fullness. And even when the history is complicated, even when the wound is still there, you can choose to give from who you are, not from what someone deserves. Do you get it? What I will tell you, this is what saved me in the loneliness of that childhood, in the confusion and the pain of feeling unseen by one person who was supposed to see me the most. I felt something else, something that had no name at the time, but that I now completely understand. I felt the love of God, of spirit, of something so much larger than the four walls that I was living in. They found me when I needed it most. They showed up in the quiet places, in the moments where I was most alone. And they made sure I knew I was not abandoned, that I was held, and that I was loved by something that would never leave, would never weaponize me, never make me earn it. That is where my spiritual life was born. Not in a church and not in a classroom, but in the silent, private moments of a lonely little girl who needed to know she was not alone. And she was not. I was not. Now, I share this not only to lead you into despair, because I don't mean to do that, but to lead you through it. And because I know that someone listening right now has their own version of the story. And maybe it was a mother, and maybe it was a father, and maybe you were the good daughter, and maybe you are the good son, the one who kept the peace, absorbed all the chaos and told yourself that one day, if you were just good enough, it would finally feel like love. And I want you to know you can survive it, you can heal it, and you can forgive it, and you can thrive, and not in spite of it, but because of what it taught you about who you really are. And that wound is not the end of the story. In my experience, it is often the very beginning of the real one. So before we go any further, I want to give you a moment, because what we've covered so far is not small. We've talked about what it costs to be a good girl and the good daughter and the one who still holds it all together. We've talked about giving from fullness versus giving from depletion. We've named the feelings nobody admits. And we've gone into some territory that I know is landing somewhere real for you. So take a breath. And while you're breathing, I want you to sit with these 3 questions. Really sit with them. Don't rush the answer. Let the answer find you. So we'll put those up on the screen. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, the light comes on. And I promise you, it's brighter than you think. 1, who taught you that your needs were less important than everyone else's? 2, where in your life are you still trying to earn love that should simply be given? And 3, what would it feel like to give freely, fully, from a place where you no longer need anything back? Welcome back. I hope you used that time well, and I hope you sat with those questions, even if the answers were uncomfortable, especially if they were uncomfortable. Because discomfort is not the enemy. Discomfort is the doorbell, and something important is standing on your porch. So let's open the door. I want to talk to you about the 5 dimensions, 5 ways of moving through your life when you understand them, when you actually use them. They'll change everything. And it's not a bumper sticker, a feel good, positive thinking kind of way. I mean, they change the actual architecture of how you see yourself and how you move in the world. I call them the 5 dimensions of manifestation. And before anyone checks out on me, stay with me here, because this is not about vision boards and affirmations. This is about biology. This is about the science of how your mind and your body and your spirit actually work together to create the life you're living. And once you understand it, you cannot unsee it. And the 5 dimensions are clarity, intuition, evidence, belief, and action. And today, we're going to run through every single one of them through the lens of what we've been talking about in this episode. Giving, altruism, and the cost of being the good girl. And what it actually looks like to step in a life where you give freely without losing yourself in the process. So let's go. Dimension 1 is clarity. Know why you're doing what you're doing, because clarity is the foundation. Without it, everything else is just noise. And here is what clarity means in the context of giving. It means getting radically honest with yourself about why you give. Not the surface answer, the real one. Here's the science behind why this matters. A Nobel Prize winning psychologist named Daniel Kahneman. He wrote the book Thinking Fast and Slow. He spent decades studying on how our brains actually make decisions. And what he found is what your brain is wired to rationalize your behavior after the fact. He called this post hoc rationalization. Your brain will construct a perfectly reasonable explanation for why you did something, even when the real reason was something else entirely. So when you say, I helped because I wanted to, your brain is nodding along and filing that story neatly. But your nervous system, your body, those tell a different story, and they don't lie. Clarity is the practice of going underneath the rationalization, asking yourself before you give, before you say yes, before you take on the role, why am I really doing this? Is it because it generally lights me up? Or is it because you're afraid of what happens if you don't? Those are two completely different starting points, and they lead to completely different outcomes for you and for the person you're giving. Here's your clarity question. The next time you say yes to something, pause just for a moment and ask yourself, am I doing this because I want to, or because I'm afraid of what it says about me if I don't? That pause, that single moment of honest inquiry is where everything begins to shift. Dimension 2 is intuition. Your body is smarter than your brain. This one is close to my heart and close to my entire life's work. Intuition is not a mystical gift reserved for a special few. Intuition is biological. It is your nervous system processing information faster than your conscious mind can keep up with. Here's a name for you. Dr. Michael Gershon, a neuroscientist at Columbia University. He literally wrote the book on this. It's called The Second Brain. And what he discovered is that your gut, your actual gut, contains over 100 million neurons. Your gut processes the information, communicates with your body, and sends the signals up to your brain, not the other way around. The gut-brain connection is real. It is measurable, and it is one of the most powerful navigation systems you have access to. And then there is your heart, right? The Heart Math Institute, it's a legitimate scientific research organization that has been studying this for decades, found that the heart generates the largest electromagnetic field in the human body. The heart's electrical field is about 60 times greater in amplitude than the brain's, and the magnetic field over 100 times stronger. And that field responds to your emotional state before your brain has even registered what's happening. What does that mean in plain language? It means your body knows before you think it, before you decide it, before you talk yourself out of it. Your body already has the answer. So when you are about to give something, your time, your money, your energy, your heart, and something in you tightens, that is not anxiety to be ignored. That is intelligence to be heard. And when giving feels like relief, like, of course, yes, I want to do this, that is your body in full alignment. That is intuition saying this is yours to give. Now here's the practice. Before you give, check in, not with your head, with your body. Put your hands to your heart or to your chest if you need to. Just ask, does this feel like expansion or contraction? Like opening or closing? Like yes or like, fear. Your body has been telling you the truth your entire life. It's really time to start listening. Dimension number 3 is evidence. Look at the receipts with wisdom, not bitterness. Evidence is where you get practical. And I see you out there giving me that eye roll. It's going to get a little uncomfortable in the best possible way. Here's the science. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine. It is constantly scanning your environment, your relationships, your experiences, your history, and filing information into categories. Dr. Stephen Porges, the researcher who developed polyvagal theory, coined a term for this process: neuroception. Your nervous system is perpetually assessing. Is this safe? Is this familiar? Does this match what I already know? And here is the important part. Your brain will always prioritize familiar over good. It will choose a familiar dynamic, even a painful one, over an unfamiliar one that might actually serve you better. Because familiar feels safe, even when it isn't. That is why so many of us repeat the same patterns in relationships, the same dynamic of giving too much and receiving too little, the same role of the strong one, the fixer, the one who holds it all together. Not because we are broken, but because our nervous system has categorized it as known, and known feels survivable. Evidence is the practice of looking at your patterns with clear eyes, not to assign blame, not to reopen wounds, but to see clearly and honestly what the data of your own life is telling you. Look at your relationships. not with bitterness, but with curiosity. Who in your life refills you? Who consistently drains you? Where have you given the most and received the least? Where have you tolerated dynamics you would never have accepted for someone you love? The receipts, the proof, it's all there. It has always been there. Evidence asks you to look at them and then make a new decision based on what you actually see rather than what you hoped it would be. Here's your evidence question. Think of the relationship in your life where you give the most. Now, honestly ask yourself, what is the return? Not in scorekeeping way, in a simple, honest, human way. Does this relationship fill me? Does it honor what I bring to it? Or have I been eating crumbs and calling it a meal? Dimension number 4, and it's belief. You are not more lovable when you are more useful. This is the one that lives at the root of everything we've talked about today, because belief is the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you deserve. And for many of us, especially those who grew up in the role of the good girl, the good daughter, the strong one, the core belief runs something like this. If I stop giving, I will stop being loved. If I stop being useful, I will stop being wanted. If I ask for something back, I will be seen as selfish. And that belief, however quietly it lives, runs everything. It is the invisible architect behind every yes you said when you meant no. Every sacrifice that went unacknowledged. Every moment you made yourself smaller to someone else could feel bigger. Here's the neuroscience. Your brain has a system called reticular activating system. The RAS, it lives in your brain stem and functions as your brain's attention filter. Every single second, your nervous system receives approximately 11 bits of sensory information. The RAS compresses all of that down to the roughly 40 or 50 bits that reach your conscious awareness. 40 out of 11 million. And here's the critical part. It makes that selection based on what you already believe to be true. So if you believe at a deep cellular level that your worth is tied to your usefulness, your brain will filter your entire experience through that lens. It will find evidence for it everywhere. It will discount every moment of being loved freely and amplify every moment of being taken for granted, because that confirms the story it already knows. The work of belief is not about positive thinking. It's about interrupting the filter. And I want to tell you something personal here because I think it matters. When I turned 40, I heard, and I mean heard, felt it in my entire body that I was supposed to be doing something else. The calling was deep and it was clear. And while I was beginning to explore the spiritual realm and it was extraordinary, I put it aside because of our investigations business. My husband Tony and I operate one of the largest matrimonial investigations firms in the country. And to be honest, that pays the bills. A psychic card reading doesn't. So as a good girl, a good wife, she put her own desires on the shelf to keep walking a path that her soul already knew was finished. And at 50, I said, all right, enough. This is my time. I decided to do both. Because let's face it, I'm a woman who can wear many hats and capes and do pretty much anything she puts her mind to. And I heard without a doubt from them, spirit, upstairs, God, the universe, they said, we got you. But no, you're 10 years behind the 8 ball. Where we need you to be, you gotta work harder and faster and smarter than everyone else. I promised I would, I will, I did. And thank God for advanced technology and AI, because it is absolutely my friend, and everything that has come around in the last 10 years has helped me thrive to do what I've got going on up here in my brain to bring it out to the world. So for decades, the story running quietly in the background, the RAS was filtering everything through, said good girls put others first. Good girls don't abandon what they built. Good girls wait until it's convenient for everyone else. That was the filter. That was the belief. And at 50, I chose a different story. Not because it was easy, because it wasn't. Because it was true. I interrupted the filter. I installed a new one. And everything began to shift. That is neuroplasty. Dr. Joe Dispenza built his entire body of work on this principle. The brain's extraordinary capacity to form new neural pathways based on new repeated thoughts and experiences. You are never too old for this. Your brain is never too set. The rewiring is always available to you. The new story sounds like this. I am enough without giving. My worth is not earned. It is inherent. I am not more lovable when I am more useful. I am already lovable, exactly where I am right now. Here's your belief work on the screen. Here's your question. What is the oldest story you told yourself? You just keep telling yourself about what you have to do to be loved. Write it down, look at it, and then ask, is this true? Or is this just the first thing I was taught? And dimension 5 is action. The small, brave moves that change everything. And here we are. The 5th dimension, the one where the rubber meets the road. Because clarity without action is just self-awareness. Intuition without action is just a feeling. Evidence without action is just information. And belief without action is just intention. Action is where it becomes real. And here is the beautiful science of this one. When you give freely, truly freely, with no hidden agenda, no strings attached, no quiet expectation waiting in the wings, your brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, and dopamine, the reward chemical. Scientists have named this phenomenon as the helper's high. It is real, it is measurable, and I can personally attest to it. Because the moment I made a true decision and took action toward what my soul was calling me to do, the feeling was extraordinary. It still is. But here is what the research also shows. That helper's high only fires fully when the giving is voluntary. When it comes from genuine choice. When it's not obligation dressed up as generosity. Obligatory giving from fear, from guilt, from the need to be needed, produces something else entirely. It produces cortisol, the stress hormone, the chemistry of threat and survival. And remember what I said earlier? Your body knows the difference between giving and performing generosity. It has always known. So action in this context is 2 things at once. The first is practicing giving that is truly free. Give one thing this week with 0 expectations attached. Don't announce it, just do it. Just give it and release it completely. Notice how light that makes you feel. The second is the small, brave boundary. And I want to be clear. I am not asking you to blow up your life. That's not what this is. I'm asking you to take one small, powerful, conscious step toward a life where your giving is a choice. What does that actually look like? Okay, it's small. It might be finally saying no to driving the carpool that you're always getting stuck to do it, right? How about maybe it's just telling a friend kindly and lovingly that you can't be her emotional 911 every single night for 3 hours on the phone. Okay, and maybe it's stopping the Sunday dinners you host for people every week that never say thank you or even offer to go to their house. Or maybe it's work, colleague who's always dumps their stuff on you last minute because, she has an emergency. She's always got something going on. Or the neighbor you've been helping for months, but never actually asked how you are. It just requires you looking at one thing on your own terms and making a conscious decision about it. That's the action. That is the good girl that becomes whole. That is where everything changes. And when you apply them to how you give, to how you are in relationships and in your family and community, you stop being the good girl who gives herself away and you become someone who's so much more powerful, someone who gives consciously and who loves fiercely, who shows up completely, who never, ever, not for one single moment, loses herself in the process. That is the goal and that is the work. And that, I promise you, is absolutely available to you. So here we are, the end of the road. Or maybe it's just the beginning of it, right? I want you to take you back to where we started today. Remember, this whole thing came about to me, it was birthed to me from pulling a card, and it cracked open this whole episode. It's been a wild journey, and I have to say thank you. Thank you so much for being here and being open and willing to take on the tasks of asking these hard questions for yourselves, because we went to some places today that are not always comfortable to visit, and we named the feelings, how people spend their entire lives, they bury this stuff because naming them feels like admitting something was wrong and confessing to a weakness, and it's not true. But you stayed, you listened, and I want to honor that. And I want you to know from the bottom of my heart that you are not too much. You are not too giving. You are not broken for wanting to be seen and being loved and appreciated. Those are not flaws. Those are not character defects. Those are the most profoundly human needs that exist. And you, yes, you are allowed to have them. So what I'm inviting you to do is not less generosity. I would never ask that. Your giving is one of the most beautiful things about you. What I'm inviting you is giving from a place of where you are whole. It's a practice, you guys. Practices that need a place to live, and it's yours completely free. And I want you to download it at dawnricci.com/giving. So again, the card was The Wisdom Keepers Oracle by Rosie Aronson, and it's at wisdomkeepers.net. Okay, so before we go, I don't care what anyone says. Nothing is ever a coincidence. Not the deck that falls into my hands, not the card that takes our breath away, not the episode that reaches you on exactly the day you may have needed it. You are here for a reason, and you, my friend, you are more than enough. Exactly as you are right now in this moment. I love you for being you, and thank you for taking this journey with me today. I will see you next time.